Welcome back to my neck of the woods, where I share my experience, my knowledge, and my opinions of all my outdoor adventures. So, today I am going to talk about fishing advice. What's the best fishing advice? What's the best fishing advice I've gotten over the years? I have a few things that I'm going to mention, and we're always trying to get better as anglers, and we talk to different people, we fish with our buddies, we watch YouTube, and we're always trying to pick things up. So I thought it would be a great thing for me to enlighten you with some of the best advice that I've gotten over the years. All right, so before I start, if you would subscribe to my channel, like my videos, and make comments. I love comments. All right, so I wrote them down here. So number one is to have confidence in your equipment. I think a buddy of mine told me, he says, whatever it is, have confidence in it, and you'll fish it more, and you'll eventually ultimately catch more fish on it. Whether it's your favorite reel or a reel that you buy that you like the way it looks, you think it's sexy, or whatever it is, or if it's just a favorite bait, whatever it is, fish it with confidence, and you'll ultimately catch more fish. I know it sounds silly, but it does work. All right. Second piece of advice that I've gotten over the years is to put a swim bait trailer on your spinner baits. It doesn't have to be a big one. Sometimes I use like a small Keitech or even some sort of a paddle tail. Sometimes you can put a fluke. Anything that has just a little wave in it. It does multiple things. It changes the profile, adds a little scent to it, and it slows it down too. So you have three motions in it. Well, four motions. You have your skirt. You usually have two blades, and then you have that paddle tail too. Sometimes when the bass they're not biting and you need to slow it down a little bit, but if you're like me, I love spinner baits, so I'll put a trailer on my spinner bait, and that will slow it down a little bit. And a lot of times you can slow roll it through the grass or the weeds or the pads and whatnot, and get better hookups that way. Third piece of advice came from my friend Ken. This was only a couple of years ago, and it was to use a follow-up bait. Prior to that, I had never even heard of a follow-up bait. He has a channel, and I was watching one of his videos, and he threw a spinner bait out, and what he did is it looked like he got a hit, and then he burned it in real quick, and then just took a worm and threw it in the same spot and ended up catching a really nice fish there. So follow-up baits, if you don't know what they are, that's what it is. You just follow up on where you got a hit. So you say it's a chatter, it's usually some moving bait. Say it's a chatter bait or a crank bait or whatever it is. Something snaps at it, but you missed it. You missed the hook set. You burn that bait in, and then you take something slow-moving or something that's sort of sedentary. And it's just going to stay in that area. Try to throw it back in that same spot where you got a hit, and it works. It works. I'm going to say it works 90% of the time that you hook up with that fish. That fish is still there looking for whatever it is that they snapped at. And then when something breaks the surface, they're obviously hungry, or it was a reaction strike, or something's going on where they're going to bite again. Follow-up bait. It works wonders. Number 4 is knots. Find a good knot that works well for you. For me, it's a Palomar knot. Before, I really didn't know, like when I was starting out, I really didn't know. I did a bunch of overhand knots or something that resembled a cinch knot, but it wasn't. And then someone told me about a Palomar knot, and I've used it almost for every application. Having a good knot on whatever bait you're using, or even if you're using live bait or shiners or whatever it is the difference between landing that big fish and not landing that big fish. Because some of those knots, they'll just pull right out when you get a little more weight on the other end there. Especially if you got your drag tightened down, which is also a beginner mistake too. I should do a video on beginner mistakes, because I made all of them, I think. All right, moving on. Texas and wacky rigs. Let them work the way they're supposed to work. They're supposed to be slow moving. Don't work it too fast. It's slow and steady. You just throw it out there, and a lot of times you'll pick structure apart, or lay downs, or brush piles, or rock piles, or whatnot. Throw it at it. You give it a little jig if you want, but kind of just pull it up, let it down, and then when you're past that area that you're working, then you reel it in and you throw it back to that area or another area. But you got to let those same thing with a Ned rig. You got to let them work. You can't fish them too fast. They're meant to be fished slow, and they're meant to be fished like around structure and whatnot. All right, fish those Texas rigs slow. Number 6 is what is it? Oh, it's when you try a new bait, give it a chance. Fish it a lot and really work it to see if it has any potential. There's something a couple years ago. It was called the 360 search bait. I tried it I brought it with me, and I just didn't feel it. Turns out it was a wonderful bait. It had this really erratic action that really attracted fish, but I just didn't give it a chance. I had to wait until a friend of mine used it, and he killed it right in front of me with the same bait. And then, obviously, I started using it then. But those new baits that you try, say you see it, say a friend is using it, or someone turns you on to it, or, I don't know, maybe it just looks nice, because there's so many baits out there that catch more fishermen than fish. You got to give it a chance. Try fishing it all day. If you don't get a bite on it, then just use it for, when things are going rough. Use it, but you got to use it. All right, you got to use those new baits, and you got to give them a chance. Number 7. For me, I thought this was key, and that's having a mentor. That's having someone that you can bounce questions off of all the time, or just a buddy that you fish with, and someone preferably who has success and is much better at it than you, where you can kind of look up to them, and they don't mind sharing advice or fishing spots or all these other things that sometimes us as anglers or fishermen, we keep secret. Just go out with that person, watch what they do. Watch what they do, watch what they throw, watch when they throw it. And there's a lot of things that come into factor. There's the weather, there's the color of the bait, there's the conditions, there's water color, there's all these things that come into play. And a lot of times these people that are better at it, they don't even think about it. They just do what they know works at those times, or if they're fishing a body of water that they're familiar with. So watch what they do, ask questions, and let them share with you. Another thing you can do with that is my cat is on the table here. Sorry. Another thing you can do if you don't have that is find someone on YouTube that gives advice. I know that like Bass Resource and Gene Jensen, they give tons of advice for almost every application, and it's valid stuff. When I first started fishing, I followed Andrew Flair, and I watched him, and I loved the way he did his videos. I loved the things that he did and his reviews and everything like that. He was just a young kid. I'm 45 years old, and he was, I think he was like pushing 20 at the time, but he was much better at fishing than I was at the time. And I would email him on his or put comments in his YouTube channel, and he would answer them. He was eager to answer them, as I am eager to answer on my channel too. Since then, he's moved away from fishing. He does more hunting, and I think the things that he really wants to do. But anyway, I think that having a mentor or someone that you can confide in is an excellent thing you can do. And number 8, and this is my final one, is remember to have fun. I think that's, there's so much pressure that we put on ourselves sometimes, especially if you're doing tournaments. I found that in myself that I couldn't do tournaments. I'm way too competitive, and when money was on the line, I just couldn't do it. I ended up like yelling and screaming and breaking my rods, and like if I lost a big fish, I'd lose my effing mind. So that's just me. But I realized quickly that I couldn't do it competitively. It really took the fun out of it for me. So if you're one of those people, you need to recognize that, and you need to go out there and have fun. All right? That's all I have for you. Subscribe to my channel if you like the content and things I'm talking about. Make comments and share my videos. That's great. All right? Everyone be well, tight lines, and keep catching those fish. Bye-bye.